Welcome back to Von Vibes, everyone. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a recent vulnerability that really caught our eye.
Yeah, definitely one of those didn't see that coming kind of things.
Exactly. And I think it's a great example of how even seemingly harmless tools can have pretty serious security flaws.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about Below. It's a Linux tool for system monitoring and data visualization. Gives you those nice dashboards and graphs for all your system data.
Right, yeah. Super useful for getting a quick overview of what's happening on your system.
But a newly discovered privilege escalation vulnerability, CVE-2025-27591, kind of throws a wrench in things. It's got a CVSS score of 7.8.
Which is pretty high.
Yeah, that's definitely cause for concern. So
Yeah.
let's break this down. What's the root cause of this vulnerability? Why is this even possible?
Well, the problem stems from how Below handles file permissions. In versions before 0.9.0, the directory where Below stores its log files is set as world writable, meaning any user on the system can write data to that directory.
Okay. And that sounds, I guess, harmless enough on the surface.
Right, it does. But that's where the classic symlink attack comes in.
Ah, the old symlink switcheroo.
Yeah, exactly. So an attacker can create a symlink that points to a sensitive file, like, say, it's in a shadow.
Which, for our listeners who might not know, is where user passwords are stored.
Precisely. And then when Below tries to write to its log file, it actually ends up modifying enter shadow instead.
And boom, the attacker potentially gains root privileges.
Yep, game over. And what's really interesting is that the researcher who found this, Matthias Gerstner, he outlined a specific attack vector in his blog post using, varlog below or root.log.
I saw that. Pretty clever, right? And he didn't just test this on one Linux distro. He went all out and tested it on a bunch of them. OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, Gentoo, Fedora, even Arch Linux AUR.
Yeah, he really did his due diligence. And it turned out that all of these distributions were vulnerable, even though they handled directory permissions differently.
So it's not just a problem with one specific distro, it's a much wider issue.
Right. It highlights just how easy it is to overlook these subtle permission issues, even in widely used software.
And it's not even just about the symlink attack. There were other concerns that Gerstner raised in his blog post, right?
Oh, yeah. He pointed out that Below's world-readable directories could also lead to information leaks, sensitive system data just sitting there for anyone to grab.
And it makes you think, right? Like, how often do we just blindly trust the tools we use without really thinking about the potential security implications?
All the time, I'd say.
Yeah, probably. So this whole situation really underscores how critical secure file handling practices are, making sure that permissions are set correctly, that sensitive data is protected, all that good stuff.
For sure. It's one of those fundamental security principles that we can't afford to overlook.
So for our listeners out there who might be using Below, what can they do to protect themselves? What's the fix?
Well, the good news is the fix is pretty straightforward. Upgrading to Below version 0.9.0 patches this vulnerability.
So pretty simple.
Yeah, very. If you're not able to upgrade right away, there is a workaround. You can manually adjust the permissions on varlog Below to make it less permissive.
But patching is always the preferred solution, right?
Definitely. It's the most secure and reliable way to address the vulnerability long term.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Patch, patch, patch. Always the best advice. And this really goes beyond Below. It's a good reminder to routinely audit the software we use, no matter how harmless it might seem. You never know what kind of vulnerabilities might be lurking under the surface.
Couldn't agree more. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. So on that note, thanks for diving into this with us today. That's all the time we have for now. But stay vigilant, keep those systems secure, and we'll catch you next time on Vuln Vibes.
Until then, stay safe out there.
Yeah.